You're Fairbanks, Alaska. Yeah, I mean that picture. You look cold, man. Like, I mean, you look like one of the guys on Alone. Have you ever watched that show?
I have watched it. I have
Oh,
watched it. They're intense.
that is, yeah. So the guys that actually that make it well, I mean, I should say make it closer to the end, if not all the way to the end. The unbelievable amount of skill. But yeah, I was thinking, I was like, the first time I saw that picture, I was like, man, Coleman looks like he's a contestant on Alone out there. And so you were up in Fairbanks on a caribou hunt. Did you get one?
Yeah, we did. I
Nice.
got a nice little female, and I don't know if you've ever had caribou meat before.
Mm-mm.
This is the first time I've actually had it, but it is the best wild game meat I have ever had. It beats
Really?
everything else. I remember being a kid, so I grew up in Canada, and so I remember playing hockey with the old guys and these old hunting guides, and they would always say how the best meat was always caribou, and I always just thought they were lying. There's nothing for them to eat up there. Like, what would make them taste so much better? But it is amazing meat. It is really really good.
So when you say it's the best I've had, like what are you comparing it to? Like what are some of the second and third best wild game that you've had?
I really like moose meat. Moose meat is really really good. It'd be similar to like a bison almost.
Okay.
I like elk, mule deer, and whitetail. So in order, I think caribou would be first, and then moose, and then I think elk, mule deer, whitetail are almost kind of the same.
Have you ever had a bear?
I have not. I'm actually going to see if I can get back up to Alaska to do a spring bear hunt.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is my top of the list in terms of wild game is black bear, and it's not just any black bear, like black bear that's raised on like mountain berries and things like that. That's not so fishy up front and all that fun stuff.
Yep.
You get some fairly fishy type of bear, but this like the ones that are raised on berries. Oh man, you get a good 2-3 year old bear. And that is some of the best eats. You got to cook it. I mean, there's trichinosis involved and everything else, but I've always had that question. I've seen quite a few caribou hunts out there, and one of the things that the guys do, kind of like as a practice, is they scoop out the eyeball and they go for that piece of fat. That's
Yeah,
on
what I
the
forget
eyeball.
what it's called. It's gonna bother me. Yeah, but it's supposed to taste like dough, right? Bread dough.
Yeah, bread dough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I look at that and I'm like, if I was in that situation, probably starving my ass off because you're burning so many calories out there in the cold, going up and down hills, glassing all day, and everything else. I would be like, yeah, you know what, a good warm piece of bread dough right now sounds pretty damn good.
Yes. Yeah. No, I haven't tried it. I guess next time we go, we'll have to do it just to say it's just one of those things you've done it.
Yeah. Dr. Nick says the eyeball is good too, man. Ugh.
I'm not hungry enough. Fortunately, I'm a good hunter, so I don't have to go that long without eating. But
yeah, eyeballs are great for a survival situation. A lot of good stuff in there. What beta carotene, vitamin A, all sorts of salts and stuff like that for you. But
yeah, but have you played with one? Like I played with one in college, like for one of our labs, and I was just like, this is pretty gross, man.
Well, it's at SEER school. They make you basically eat the eyes out of the rabbit that they give you. And I don't know, Coleman, did you ever get a chance to go to SEER or anything?
No, I didn't,
dude. So I mean, those are some of the best stories. Where
what's the texture like?
It's a slimy pop is basically what it is. The best part is you have to sever the nerve with your teeth, right? You have that optical nerve when you like kind of get it out of there. You got to kind of go back in and bite that optical nerve, man. But yeah, that's you can keep the eyeballs. It's a fucking survival situation. No, thank you. Oh man, AC's in the house. Dr. Nick, we got Bart. Man, this is gonna be a fun night. It's only about 6:50 now, so we're getting warmed up. We should get out there and do a little sharing while we're sitting here warming it up. If you guys are out in the audience and you are on YouTube, hey, let it be a lesson. Simply Bitcoin had their account reinstated on YouTube today. Be making all sorts of preparations to get the fuck off of X and YouTube and the rest of these places. Nostr, if you haven't and don't know it, time to learn it. There's plenty of people in the Bitcoin veterans groups that are glad to teach and all that fun stuff. I think we actually have a Bitcoin. Do we have a Bitcoin veterans Nostr group?
I don't know. At this point, I can't keep up.
I think we're in the process of creating it or doing episodes.
I'll tell you what, I've been doing some research with Gary in the background, and we're working on getting some RTMP, basically some code so that we can export this from a Nostr AV audio video type of situation, kind of like this, where you can do zaps and everything else in real time, which would be fantastic, I think. But
yeah, that'd be dope.
Those guys are working hard over there. The innovation in the spaces, it never ceases to amaze me, and it's right on time as usual.
And I've been looking at getting a open source kind of like Telegram situation set up, so like it's involving bridges between Discord, or not, I said Telegram, I meant Discord, but bridging between the current Discord setup we have and then I believe it was Matrix gonna use, so like they'll both feed into each other, so we see all of it together at once.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Because what we're using now, like it gets the job done, but it's like it's so chaotic. Like, I mean, even just us asking if we have a chat, like I like even my direct messages, I go to message, like I went to go message Kevin the other day while I was at work, and I didn't realize that he had tried messaging me like weeks ago, because it just gets buried under everything else, like as it's updating. And it bothers me. I can't do it.
To say the least, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Slack. I know you're not a big fan of Slack. Discord is one of those things too, but it's one of those things where, you know, having this done in a decentralized platform that it has cryptography, right? That's got to be the goal.
Yeah, and like that's the thing too, is I think that from here on out, like there's going to be a massive flood of different open source products that are protocols similar to Bitcoin, right? Because like the thing that like we all talk about is like Bitcoin's not necessarily, it's not a network, it's a protocol. It has a network, but it's a protocol first that enables the network. And like not a whole lot of normie people really grasp that concept. It's like if you just have the protocol, anybody can run it anywhere, and then bang, open source. Like that's, dude, I'm excited, because then there's going to be I've been noticing a lot of people similar to yourself, Shane, that are like have like very good independent like video and development skills, like especially like in the AV stuff. We're going to see like instead of movies coming out of like production studios, we're going to see movies coming from just individual people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, especially with what's going on with AI. I mean, as AI gets better and better and better, you know, some of the things that I've been doing over the last month have like, I've seen how much easier it is to find like a graphic idea, like, and I say that like a visual idea. So when you're putting things together, you know, and this is kind of like inside, you know, shop talk, right? Is like when you're putting things together where you're trying to convey thoughts and messages through advertising and marketing and all those things, finding material and sourcing material can be very expensive. I mean, first and foremost, like I use Adobe, and if you want to use like Adobe stock, a lot of times you're probably paying about $80 for a snippet of film that's like a filler piece, right? It's just like it's background. It's not even you know, something that you're going to, you know, probably use. Obviously you pay for it, keep it in the library. But with that being said, now you get an idea and you can push this into some of the AI engines if you're good with prompts, and you can come up with something that's going to, you know, fill in those gaps where you're not having to spend that money. And, you know, most of it's still work right now. The video is still not great, but you're starting to see the advancements in video where you can't even tell that it's AI. And that's with the actual people itself. So yeah, you know, sooner than later, you know, Mike, you might geek out about this like I have. I started talking to my kids about it, is, you know, what I've wanted for a long time, because places like Disney have absolutely wrecked the whole comic book thing for everybody. Star Wars is gone because of the wokeness. Is seeing how the fans out there who have the time and the energy and the resources to not only write but produce with AI these new tracks, these new stories that maybe are akin or whatever, whether they run in parallel or it's just something new based on a previous version. That's going to be fascinating as that continues to, as we decentralize, where you have platforms where you can post anything you want to post as long as you've come up with it, you've produced it. Now you've got an open source possible movie that is completely generated or at least partially generated by AI. And you're not paying for actors, you're not paying for the drama that comes with the actors, you're not paying for you're paying for some processing power. You may be paying for a better machine to do all this kind of stuff with, or just access to a server. That's
well, and then on top of that, you get a video streaming platform or service built on top of Noster, where you can just do like the zap streaming as you're watching or something like that to pay for the entertainment essentially, and then bang, like you don't need all these ridiculous independent streaming apps. You don't need Lionsgate Studios. You don't need Disney. You like that, dude. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, you want to talk about repricing things? The new quotient is Bitcoin, right? Is like when you start repricing things in decentralized, let's just say Bitcoin type of freedom tech. Boy, I'll tell you what, if I was Hollywood, I'd be looking into some new careers.
Yeah. And Hollywood touches on some interesting topics that we may or may not get into tonight. So,
oh man, this is going to be a good time tonight. What is it? 6:58. We're almost at 7:00. We don't want to jump the gun though. Hey, if you are out there on Twitter, go out there and retweet this. If you're on YouTube, go on Twitter and retweet this. Throw it into groups and let people know. We have Coleman Payne on here tonight. And we are going to get into it. Coleman's going to be taking over the Bitcoin Veteran Spaces, which maybe some of you guys don't even know about yet. Maybe you've been under a rock for the past, week and a half, 2 weeks, and haven't been part of the discussions. I'll tell you what, if I'm not in them, I'm listening to them, and they are fantastic. I've missed, some really good Bitcoin type of discussions in the morning for quite a while.
What kinds of things have you guys talked about, Coleman? I wish I could be there, but that's like right after I go to bed. So,
this is a great teaser point, is what this is.
Yeah. No, we're covering everything kind of that's going on. Today we really hit on the, Noster and what happened with Pavel Durov from Telegram.
Okay.
Talked about that. Talked about the guy from Bumble leaving Europe completely, and just kind of how they're coming after everybody. Like freedom of speech is really starting to be infringed upon across all the platforms, and we're kind of guessing who will be next. Like it's crazy times.
What'd you guys come up with in the conversation? Like, who do you guys think? Like, did you guys make like a top 3 or a top 5 list of who you guys think is going to be like gone after?
No, we didn't make a list at all. Elon was mentioned on the, he could possibly be next, but I don't think we're there yet. I don't think they're backed up quite enough to make a bold move like that. But I think it's coming. I don't think this is going to be the only shoe to drop on.
Well, because like the main thing with like the Telegram guy was because he was in France, right? So they would have to, if they were going to get Elon, they would have to get him outside of the country.
Yes. Unless they want to get him something inside the country here. What's to stop them, right?
Fair.
They can spin up any charge, and then it's up to you to defend yourself. That
we've already seen them attempt twice now to set up a Ministry of Truth, right? And then people have like called them out. It's like, I know what you're trying to do here. And, like,
I've seen this one before.
Yeah, and so I think today we mentioned about Zuckerberg, how he came out and mentioned that he was getting censored or pressured to censor certain things. So it's interesting. Every weekend it just seems like, man, that was a crazy week. And then the next week comes and it's like, holy man, like it just keeps snowballing. And
Yeah.
it's very interesting times.
Then I know we want to slow down the conversation so we can get to the actual part of the podcast, but like the thing that like concerns me, I'm sure it concerns both of you and like everybody that's watching, is that you see some of these things happen and they don't get airtime on like the mainstream media. So the rest of the country or rest of normie population doesn't like see it or get concerned. So they don't like panic or freak out and they think it's nothing. And like that causes me to get more terrified, because it's like you guys like don't realize that not only like you guys are starting to realize the economic and financial boiling point that you're like frogs just sitting in a vat, but you don't see like the political legislative like point around communications. Like that scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, it's not affecting people enough where it's scary, but it's affecting them enough where it still can be, subtle, and they can just slowly just kind of creep in. And eventually these people are going to be just looking around and there's going to be no one over their shoulder or no one around them to protect them. And I hope we're still really far away, but my gut tells me that it's a lot closer than a lot of people think.
All right, before we go down the Doom Lord Avenue here, you guys know the story arc of this show. We're going to start in Doomsville, and then we're going to end up, some rose-colored optimistic glasses on. But Bitcoin veterans, hold on to your butts. Here we go. Man, welcome to Bitcoin Veterans. So pumped. Thank you guys for all being here. It is Tuesday night. It is 7 o'clock. Yeah, 7 o'clock here Eastern. You think I'd know what time it is by now. This is when we kick off the live show. We are Bitcoiners. We're veterans. We do this to put you on the mission. If you are a veteran, if you're not a veteran, if you're still in the military, it doesn't matter. Bitcoin Veterans was established because we believe in property. We believe in legacy. We believe in self-sovereignty. And when we signed our names to that dotted line for the United States military that said, hey, you can have everything up into including our life, we believed in something that was higher and a higher power than us. And we had a love for our fellow man, which I think a lot of us saw as a true calling. And I still to this day, I think that's, what most of us think. But that got perverted and twisted. And a lot of guys got very nihilistic. We lose about 22 guys a day because there's no passion, there's no mission, there's too much mental struggle. And I think a lot of that would be cured if guys just knew that there was a better way out. Not only do we talk about Bitcoin here, we talk about freedom tech, we talk about citadels, we talk about all sorts of stuff with ham radio, Meshtastic. We talk about job opportunities through Operation Bitcoin and Brave in terms of post-traumatic stress. And we've just got such an army of guys that's growing every day now behind us that is doing so much. It's hard to keep up with, honestly. So we are here to put you back on the mission. We're here to give you some optimism, assess the current state of the world at the same time, and not live in la land. And then provide maybe some perspective on better ways to live your life and better ways to communicate with others, and a much better way to make sure that your future is secure. But our guest tonight is Coleman Payne. Coleman Payne was born and raised in Northern Canada. He joined the United States Marine Corps at 17 as an 0351 assaultman. God bless you for doing that. He's husband and father of two, small business owner of a dog boarding and training grooming facility in Texas. He is an avid hunter and fisherman, right after my own heart, and the handler of one of the coolest dogs Draco that I think most of us here at the Bitcoin Veterans were fortunate enough to meet up there in Nashville this year. Coleman, welcome to the show officially, my man.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you.
My pleasure. Yeah, Gabe, Alex, and Jordan are out tonight. I got my good man Mike Hobart here holding down the fort. Coleman is also going to be hosting Bitcoin Spaces for Bitcoin veterans, starting I think in full earnest on Monday of next week.
On Monday, yes, sir.
Man, what a cool thing to see that, man. Is I know Cafe Bitcoin was one of those things where Alex was just a master of holding court and a conversation and getting people to talk about, some of the more uncomfortable things out there, especially in the Bitcoin industry, doing it respectfully. And now, I think you guys have got a good setup over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. And, I've heard nothing but incredible conversations coming out of you guys, Coleman.
I'm glad to hear that. And thank you. Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. You're right. Alex was a stud at that. So big shoes to fill, but I'm looking forward to the challenge.
Right on. Well, let's pay our sponsors real quick, and then we'll come back and we'll get into the nitty gritty. Ever consider how much information is stored on your phone? Personal data, bank account info, and access to your two-factor authentication. All those apps provide data that tells a story about you. That's why we're teaming up with Silent. Silent offers an efficient and easy solution to protect your location and personal data. Their Faraday products block all incoming and outgoing signals, so no one can get their hands on your information. Simply place your device inside, close the sleeve, and that's it. You are off the grid, untrackable, and safe from unauthorized access. Hardware wallets are also mission-critical gear. It's crucial to keep them safe from hackers and events like EMPs and solar flares. Silent's Faraday bags provide an extra layer of protection for your Bitcoin, ensuring your signing device is secure from remote tampering, EMP, and solar flares. Go silent today at slnt.com/BTCVets to save 15% plus free shipping on qualifying orders. Stay ahead of what's coming and secure your privacy today. Again, that's slnt.com/BTCVets for 15% off and free shipping on qualified orders. slnt.com/BTCVets. Black Sheep Ammunition. Veteran-owned and operated, Black Sheep Ammunition graciously donated 6,000 rounds to Bitcoin veterans for the Nashville Range Day event. Use Bitcoin 10 for 10% off. Black Sheep Ammunition is not made for the faint of heart. They craft ammo for the black sheep, for the watchful defenders called to hunt, provide, and protect, and for the brave patriots who boldly keep watch atop the hill, and for the weirdos who aren't afraid to stray from the flock. When courage calls you to action, Black Sheep will be there to answer. Their mission is to supply every freedom-loving American with enough firepower to get the job done twice. Check them out at blacksheepammo.com. Use the code Bitcoin10 for 10% off. All right. Back at it. We got to pay these guys, and we appreciate both those guys over at Silent and Black Sheep Ammo for everything you've done for Bitcoin veterans. Stellar guys. This is an incredible place to be with sponsors now doing this show, and man, I'm tickled to death. So let's dive into. I know we were talking a little bit beforehand, and I think this is a great place to jump off. As there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. You're going to be hosting Bitcoin veterans on Spaces. And I just kind of want to know from you, what the feeling is and kind of just the temperature of the room and on X or Twitter or whatever we're calling it these days, where we've got a bunch of Bitcoiners hanging out, coming in and talking, what's the feel and kind of how's, I guess, perception of current events going right now?
Within the Bitcoin group, I think we're the calm. When you look on Twitter or X, it's chaotic, right? Everyone's doom and gloom. Everyone is living in a bubble. They're not really sure what's going on. And I think everybody in the group really keeps each other grounded and keeps everybody in a reality check. So it's a fun space. I for all the veterans listening, like when you hang out with other veterans, it doesn't matter if you've known them forever, you're just meeting them. There's just something special about this group. Like you're you're just old friends instantly. You already have so much in common, and it's awesome, and it's so fun to be able to talk to everybody every day during the week. Like it's so surreal to me. I was sitting on the outside for the last couple of years, and to be in the middle of this and being a part of it, like it's amazing. Like it's surreal.
That's, I mean, Mike, I mean, a few years ago, we were, I think we met and came up here and hung out on the mountain. And, I think I talked about some grandiose plans about some things with veterans and things like that with you. And then all of a sudden, like where are we 2.5 years later? And, this thing's expanding to this point, I don't know. It tickles me to death, man. What about you?
It is interesting because it's precisely what Coleman said. Like it's hard to describe even to other veterans outside of it until like you kind of just get exposure to it, because like Shane, like you're saying, like a lot of us didn't know that there was so many of us out there until the advent of Twitter Spaces, and then we all started ranting. And most of the guys that were ranting you didn't know were military vets until like it just came up in conversation one day. Like one guy's like, oh yeah, like I deployed, and they're like, oh shit, you deployed? Like I deployed, like where, like what, like what's going on there? And then all of a sudden you go down like rabbit holes together and realize that you've investigated the Federal Reserve, you've investigated the intelligence community, you've investigated like all this other stuff. It's like, okay, maybe this, like, it's interesting to be able to go down rabbit holes with other people together, and then not only just like the addiction to the information acquisition, but also like working on trying to build solutions with like-minded individuals that have like similar but also different experiences to be able to actually put something together that's a solution. It's addicting as hell.
You got something to say there, Coleman?
No, I just agreeing. Like it's addicting. Like you want to keep it going. You need to make sure that if you're in the sidelines, jump in, come and join one of the spaces. And
what have you, I mean, obviously you've seen, quite a bit of, behind the scenes. What's one of the biggest things that just gets you fired up with this group? I mean, is there one specific thing that we cover in the chats, or, what we're talking about, like that really gets you fired up above everything else?
I think because everyone thinks the same way. I don't know. It's just you think something, and someone else kind of talks about the same thing, or they go off like on a different tangent, and it gives you different perspective. But it's just that's what I like, is that you all have the similar values and beliefs, and you can just kind of bounce things off each other, and no one's gonna belittle you or say something just because you think something's different. Go ahead.
All right. Sorry, no, keep going. There was one thing I wanted to like highlight after you were done with whatever it is you wanted to say.
No, go ahead. Yeah, I was just
okay. I think it's really important that you said specifically that we think in a similar fashion, not that we think the same thing, right? Like that's probably one of the most important things, because like America or Western developed nations in general today are running into issues because there's two major groups that think the same things but don't think in the same way, to the point of, because like it's like the analogy, for those that don't really understand what I'm getting at, is like there's thinking that the earth is the center of the universe, and then there's the scientific method. One is the same thought, one is the same thought process, so you can get to different actual solutions versus just like producing an echo chamber and never hearing anything outside of that.
And to give it some real tangibility, I think, when you see those two different opposing forces in America, they get all the coverage that are barely, 20% respectively, the Democrats and the Republicans, right? Is you have the Democrats who are extremely happy to sit there and say, hey, we're going to take your fucking guns through force and coercion, right? Like that's our goal. And then you have the Republicans who are like, hey, we're going to take your psychedelics through force and coercion, right? It's the same thought process, and it's just coming from different camps. And each one of them has justified one of those things. Whereas I think this group, for the most part, I think they're coming at this a little more open-minded to begin with. I think Bitcoin is the great humbler. And when you understand if Bitcoin is the great humbler, it means that you had to have an open mind long enough to see maybe where you were wrong in the past, and maybe you do some course corrections and shed, a lot of the indoctrination. And I mean that, like, really get rid of that baggage, whether it was, I don't know, spiritual, whether it was, monetary, fiscal, whether, whatever that baggage was that was, you were indoctrinated with, getting rid of that and then growing. And the only way you grow is to approach everything with at least an open mind, saying, hey man, that human's got something to say over there. They have an experience, and maybe I should try to open my mind to what their experience was before I get too critical and try to understand it. And that's where I think we have these great strides, right? Because you're not coming to a discussion with a preconceived notion that's just set in stone. Like, you're not changing many Republicans over to Democrats this cycle, and you're definitely not changing a lot of Democrats over to maybe more Democrats over to the Republican side, like we've seen with RFK and Tulsi. But I think that's where we have one of our greatest abilities, is because we're coming to these situations as guys with a ton of experience who've seen a ton of things, but we also have an open mind, having had those, multitudes of experiences.
Definitely.
And speaking of Republicans and experiences and taking guns, you guys were already starting to go off on a tangent about hunting, and I have zero experience with hunting. So I want you guys to get back into that conversation so that I can gain a little insight and learn a little bit. So I don't know how you guys want to start it, but I'm going to force the segue.
I have so many questions. First and foremost.
Yeah.
You're from Northern Canada.
Yep.
Where?
So I grew up about 2.5, 3 hours north of Edmonton. So it was way up there. So it was like 10, 11 hours from the border of Montana. Give you a kind of an idea.
That's just 10 or 11 hours, folks. If you're driving straight north out of Montana, that's basically like driving from Atlanta to Detroit. Like, that's the same amount of land. And you're probably going to cover it a lot faster because you're not going through great big cities.
Yep. Yeah. There's nothing. There's two cities you go through.
It's got to be over 1,000 miles.
Yeah, it's insane. But that's where I grew up, and that was home. And I absolutely loved it. You could literally go hunting right outside my door. We lived on about 160 acres. And I remember my mom shooting black bears off the porch because we were about to come home from school on the bus, and we'd be walking home, and there's this black bear that's just lying on the driveway because my mom shot it like 30 minutes earlier.
That's badass.
Yeah, it's just crazy. It was just an awesome childhood. So you're just exposed to it, and that's what I had. So
what kind of game did you guys have up there? And the Arctic Circle?
Not quite the Arctic Circle, but moose, white-tailed deer, and black bear.
Okay,
were the big ones.
And I mean, did you start out hunting? I mean, things like squirrels. Did you have squirrels out there? And
yeah, definitely. There wasn't any squirrels within probably half-mile radius of the house. It was they knew that was a death zone.
On the topic of squirrels, are the squirrels up there bigger or smaller than the
They're
squirrels
massive
in the city?
Dude. Yeah, northern squirrels can get huge, especially like fox squirrels, right? I mean, you guys have fox squirrels in Iowa, don't you?
Yeah. We some people call them squinnies, some people call them. I believe that they're fox squirrels. Actually, you know what? I might need to double check on that and confirm before I actually respond in the affirmative. So maybe I'll get back with you, and we'll talk about it on the next podcast or something.
Well, I asked, in terms of a lot of, as a hunter, you get started somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I know, like, my dad wasn't, a hunter while I was growing up. I know probably in his youth he was a little bit more, but we always had pellet guns in the woods behind us where we could go back and hunt squirrels. And that's what, one of the first things I ever remember going out and hunting. But when, that I guess that bug kind of bites you, right? Or you realize you're really comfortable out there. You got to be careful. There's always dangers to being out in the outdoors and all that fun stuff. But there's something so nostalgic for me as a kid. Or thinking back as a kid, where we had woods all around us and just plenty of time to go out there and play. And really, as an 80s child, probably too much time and too much leash back there in those woods to get in trouble. But it was a fantastical place. And I mean fantastical, where you got to observe things and you got to see, nature interact with itself if you were quiet enough. And that was kind of, I think, the magical piece to me is like, you could sit down with your own thoughts and you could observe something and wonder. And after, a certain amount of time, I came back and I started hunting, with I never really did any type of rifle hunting before. So, and I didn't think it was one of those things that I'd enjoy at all, because I was like, man, East Coast hunting 100 yards is maybe the farthest shot with a rifle. So one of my good buddies got me into bow hunting. I was wondering, do you bow hunt? Do you rifle hunt exclusively? Like what's your preferred method?
I do bow hunt. I've never had any luck bow hunting. I've only shot rabbits. I've never had any luck. So I stick to the rifle. But also when I was growing up, the bow season was like 4 weeks, but it was cold. Like you had the first 2 weeks were good. And then after that, you had to wear so many clothes. It didn't make sense to shoot the bow anymore, as you couldn't have your form. So yeah, just mostly rifle.
Yeah, I mean, out west too, you get into that prairie land and doing stalks is murder. I mean, absolutely, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So there was a lot of fields where you could do stalks, but again, it was mostly rifle for me. That's where I had it. But yeah.
And so you get into this, it's a practice. Were you afforded any time to go hunt while you were in the Marine Corps? And
No, I didn't do any. Yeah, I was down in Camp Pendleton in California, and then I was out in Japan, so I didn't get a chance to do any hunting there.
Okay,
so there's a little break when I was serving, but once I got back out, definitely just picked it back up again.
Yeah.
As the uneducated party here, I'm gonna guess that when you guys are talking about doing stalks, you're talking about stalking a target, right?
So you see them bedded down somewhere,
Yeah.
and you just go through and you just try and get the wind in your face so they can't smell you, and just go extremely slow and quiet. As quiet as you can.
I could see that being fun for a few times, but then being mostly shitty 90% of the time.
It's mostly shitty 90% of the time. If you got a perfect stalk every time you did it, you'd be amazing. Yeah,
it would just
always
be
something.
The fun being like the success is the determinant of the fun.
Yeah, and how close you can get, right? Because especially with today, with rifles, like you can shoot 400 or 500 yards. Like that's still a nothing shot. So if you're just looking for meat, yeah, I guess you could do that. But the stalk is what makes it fun. How close can I get? Like just channel your inner ancestors and just be like, you know what, I want to see how close I can get to this animal.
Yeah,
and then it's fun.
Hey, I'll tell you what, you have such a greater respect for every dude that got you here, right? Like, I mean, literally, you're in this 10,000 year line of dudes that fucking crushed it. And I mean, and we may be some of the first generations out there that don't, aren't learning from our forefathers, like how to do this properly, or how, what secrets they had, all those little things that, kind of got lost as people came into the cities and suburbs and bullshit. Those guys that, have either adopted it or never lost it. I think they're a real treasure. On the subject, do you hunt for sustenance as a way of life, or is it kind of a combination where it's a little bit of balance here, with a grocery store, and then supplement it with some hunting as well?
Definitely supplement it with the hunting. It's just down in Texas. That's where I'm at. I have a hard time with the hunting feeders and deers kind of just coming into a little bell. So that's not really my type of hunting. I like to get out there. I like to be remote. If I can still see like roads or signs of civilization, I'm not far enough out yet. I like to just be extremely out there and just go for it.
Yeah, you guys got some pretty good whitetail down there in Texas too, don't you?
Yeah, there are, but a lot of them are farmed, right? Or they're raised in the high fence ranches.
Mm-hmm.
So there's again, coming from remote Canada, that to me is just, it's still not hunting. Doesn't matter if there's 2,000 acres, high fence, they're still trapped in there. Like I don't want to do that.
Yeah, you're also not freezing your ass off down there, so
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's the good thing. I guess you're just sweating. That's the trade-off.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. You know, one of the things that I think a lot of people, vets included, that aren't hunters, kind of shy away from it is it's one of those things where if you think that it's easy to just kill a deer, or whatever animal you're going after, that's just the warm up. That's when the real work really begins. What's your go-to? I mean, what's your favorite thing, after you've taken an animal? Are you is there one animal you like to process yourself, or is there you know in any animals that you hate processing in general?
I'll try and so it depends. The only animal I've had processed by a professional butcher was an elk that I took in New Mexico.
Mhm.
But everything else, I try and do it myself. So I'll take it all the way down the bone, and I'll try and cut the fillets and the steaks and whatever's left, turn it into ground meat. There's just something, you take more pride in it. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, and I'm just being stubborn. But I feel like there's greater ownership in that. Like that's the way it would have happened hundreds of years ago. So why do we have to change that? It's convenience, I understand, but I like to take that extra time and do it. There's just something about it, and plus I know how it's being handled. Right? It's not that I don't trust the butcher or the processor, but I know exactly that it's being stored right, it's being hung the right amount of time, and I can make the cuts however I want to.
I would believe that it makes the meat taste better, like because I mean, if you think about it, like a good well cooked steak at a nice restaurant tastes good, but then when you learn to do it yourself at home, like there's just like that extra flavor. I mean, besides the fact of like all like the shipping for the goods and like bringing it all in as like frozen or refrigerated or whatever, besides all that, like I can't imagine that like doing it yourself, as far as like from the body to the plate, like doesn't taste better. Like that, it has to. There's no way it doesn't.
Yeah, I think there might be something to that. I think a lot of it's probably mental. Just it's
Could
in your
be
mind.
placebo.
But yeah, but I do think there's something to it. But also, again, growing up in remote Canada, like there wasn't a processor. I remember we would hang them in our friend's woodshed, like our deer, and then on one weekend on a December, after they've hung for a little while, we'd all just spend the day and we'd all just cut them all up, and then we'd have steaks that evening with the families, and then we'd all take them home to our freezers. Like that was just life. Like that's how we did it.
It's making me hungry.
I'm gonna bend some minds right now. When Mike, when you say, I gotta imagine it tastes better. Um, I think there's a lot on the surface where it absolutely is one of those things where when your body is getting those dense nutrient type of foods, especially when it's a good deer that's been out in the wild, or a bear, or whatever it is that you're eating. But I think there's actually something even greater to this that I never hear talked about. It's kind of the quantum entanglement side of this, where when you're taking a life and you are absolutely intertwined with that life now, and you're giving thanks for that life, you're a grateful hunter, which I think most hunters are. They're not numb, right? There's one of the reasons why we do hunt is because we think it's more ethical. We think it's more ethical to have that relationship with our prey than it is to just farm that out and have some other dude do it for us. The quantum entanglement side of this is, they've now, mapped, studied, and observed that quantum entanglement exists between electrons. And so now, if you're sharing energy with this beast that you've taken, and it's sharing electrons with you, and this energy is now going back and forth, when it finally does, when enter your body and you consume it, what you're doing is kind of completing a circle, right? Like you're literally you've honored this beast to the point where it's now honoring your own life. And I think that is one of the pieces that is so missed. And at the end of the day, before you consume something, it's so easy to peel, some wrapper off of something, that's ultra processed, or even, barely processed from the store, and have no relationship with it whatsoever. Just absolutely be numb, versus this real visceral understanding, especially if you're the hunter who's feeding not only yourself, but your family, that visceral feeling that you have, where you're literally taking the life that you have and sharing it with everybody else now, instead of consuming it all for yourself. I think there is something so profound about doing that. I think if more people did it, society would probably be a lot healthier.
Well, and I don't mean to jump in, Coleman. If you want to jump in, talk over me. Like you're the guest, so like you get you push me around a little bit. But like on top of that too is like you're going into the environment where you're getting the meat and the beast from, right? And like that's meaningful in the sense of like we could talk about allergens or pathogens or whatever, like that you're going to be matching, you're going to be on like an equilibrium with that point. But then also you're going into the environment together. There's the whole electromagnetism of the area, because like not like every region is going to have a different kind of like electromagnetic wave or field, or however you want to ley lines, whatever you want to talk about. Like it's all going to have like play into a role of doing that, versus the farmed out animal, whether it's actually from the US, which in reality is probably more like Brazil or Argentina, and you're getting meat that's from a completely different geographical environment, completely different electromagnetic like experience spectrum, completely different pathogens, allergens, and all this other stuff. You want to start looking at where a lot of the autoimmune health issues are coming from. It's going to be from stuff like that. And I was going to say to Coleman, to comment on what you said earlier, like you're allowed to not like your processor too at the same time. That's also why like I really appreciate having the relationship with Texas Slim and the Beef Initiative. Like they're setting up the whole parallel Bitcoin beef processors and ranchers and stuff like that. So like if anybody's listening and they do enjoy the topic and the conversation, they want to get in touch with Coleman, or they want to get in touch with with us to figure out how to get in touch with Texas Slim, like everybody just send us a DM or hit us up in the comments. We'll do you a solid, try and get you connected.
Yeah, if I'm not using wild game, we use Texas Slim. So at KNC Cattle out in Austin, that's where we get all of our meat from. I think it's probably been almost 3 years since we bought any meat at the grocery store, and it's night and day difference.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, KC Cattle, our former sponsor. We're still eating on that cow, man, and it's fantastic. I mean, just night and day difference from anything you're going to buy in the supermarket.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Anything that we have not touched on hunting so far that you want to talk about?
No. I mean, I could talk about hunting forever. Everyone's got hunting stories.
Are your kids old enough to take them out and start hunting with them?
My son is. Yeah.
How old?
He's 13 right now. So I think we're going to go on a moose hunt.
Wow.
Maybe I was trying to get him to go next month, but I don't think I can work it in with our homeschool schedule. But they have a hunt that's open in December. So I'm going to go take him up to Bethel, Alaska. And you've probably never heard of it because it is way, way, way up there. And so we're going to do a moose hunt up there, I think, with my cousin. And it should be a lot of fun.
That's fantastic. My son's also 13 years old. I don't know when you started taking yours out. I'd be curious because as fathers, getting your sons involved in hunting is very important. Even and let me say that your daughters as well, right?
Yes.
I started taking my kids out probably when they were about 3 or 4 years old. And if anybody understands 3 or 4 year olds, man, they don't sit still. And they are not fucking quiet. They're the opposite of those things. So, I'd be curious, how did you approach hunting? What are some of the tips and tricks for some of the other dads out there that you could give them on raising a kid to be able to go out and enjoy just sitting in quiet and sitting still with nature?
Just talk to them. Like your kids want to do everything that you do. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but your kids think you're a hero. Like you're a hero in their eyes. So if you're passionate about something, they want to do that. And so I've just always loved to go hunting. And my son, He just wants to emulate that. So we've gone hog hunting. He shot hogs, and he absolutely loves it. But there's more walking and hog hunting than there is just sitting still. But just talk to him and just just let him know what's going to happen. Hey, you know what? This might be really boring. We might sit out here and freeze our butts off for the next 4 hours, but it beats than just sitting on the couch and watching TV. Like, we'll sit here and we'll have a chance. And if we're lucky, we're going to put food on our table, and we'll be able to bring all of our friends and family over, and we'll be able to provide them food that you killed, that you supplied. And there's just something about that. And it's just fun.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, you really get them started on, like, especially like the masculine part of like providing service to like a community when you can do something like that. It's like they get to see like how good it feels to not only provide somebody with something that they produce themselves, but then also just like the elation of them getting to enjoy it afterwards. Like,
yeah,
those are good lessons, man. I like that.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't going to have that opportunity, right? We went up salmon fishing about 2 years ago, and we brought back, again, we processed everything up in Alaska. So we brought back 350 pounds of salmon fillets. So it's just pure meat.
Shit.
And we had so many fish fries with our neighbors in the neighborhood, all of our friends. We actually went through it in about 2 months. Like, it was just constantly just going through it. But it was just so fun because, again, it was so fresh. It has a different taste. It was amazing, and it was so fun to be able to do that.
That's like 50 pounds of fish a weekend.
No, yeah, it was insane. Like, we were just constantly cooking.
Holy crap.
Giving it away to neighbors. Hey, we got some more salmon. You want some? And everyone taking it. But it's fun to do that. It's just, give people that experience.
Yeah. I wanted to get on fishing in a minute here, if that's okay. But I wanted to, if you're worried about taking your kids out and being loud, and you're going to miss opportunities. Just it's don't worry. It's just part of the entire process. You got to enjoy the process. I know a lot of guys want to go out, they want to fill the freezer, but that time that you're spending with those kids out there, far more important than making sure that you've got a deer that night. One of the things that we started practicing, and we were fortunate enough to have a couple of different choices in terms of hides. A good hide that is, it's got maybe some plywood or something on the sides, or some sort of plastic that's going to keep the sound inside. That's going to probably help you out a lot. And then snacks.
You're talking about a blind, like a hunting blind?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, different type of hunting blinds. And then snacks for the kids. If you can give a kid a little snack bag where, I don't care, what you're filling it up with. That's your decision. I don't want to get into that debate, but something that kid can just sit there and munch on. Well, this is all going on. I'm going to tell you, one of the best things I ever did was, hey, here's your snacks. And then they were also excited not only to go hunting, but hey, Dad, what do you bring for snacks this time, and all that kind of stuff. So
definitely. And if you're hunting and you're hunting whatever species and it's during the rut, get them to do all the calling. You have to move around. You have to be loud with that. So let them burn energy and get all the jiggles and wiggles out doing that. And then it's fun because you can have them off about 15 yards away from you doing that, and then you can look at a different avenue. So there's tons of ways. And just embrace that you're going to fail. you're going to see a giant animal walk through your area, and your son or your daughter is going to get excited, and that animal's going to hear you and it's going to run away. Just be prepared for that, and it's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
it's going to happen.
One of the greatest things too is when you actually do get the first deer with one of them, and now the natural part of starting the process where you'll field dress it, and it's not foreign to them, right? If they're young enough, they're just like, oh, this is the way it is. This is what we do. The blood, the guts, all of that kind of stuff. Like, it's just a very normal part of the process. And now, later on, they're not going to be the kid like, that's gross. Like, no, man, it's is it gross? Maybe it is a little bit gross, but at the same time, it's also very natural, and you're going to have to deal with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, you have to.
Well, and it also just makes them appreciate anything that, like, any meat that, God forbid, you do have to get from the grocery store. It's like, this is where it came from. Like, that's, I don't know, like, this got to be annoying to you guys as it is to me. Like, when people will say that they get grossed out about the processing, like, sure, yeah, a little bit is gross, but like, if you can't even like acknowledge or like see the sight of like it getting processed, like, you have to like at least understand or respect that like the meat that's coming in that nice little plastic package container inside the grocery store. Like this is happening to all of these animals where this stuff is like going on. Like grow up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It literally had a life and it gave to you. Let's not be too disgusted.
Yeah.
Nick just mentioned turkeys. You like turkey hunting?
I've never done turkey hunting.
What?
Yeah, I never
have to
did.
come.
I would love to go on a turkey hunt. I've done duck hunting, goose hunting, but I've never been on a turkey hunt.
Coleman, you have an open invite, man. I got a mountain over here with tons of fucking turkeys on it. And if you've never, for anybody out there who's never turkey hunting is some of the most fun hunting you will ever do. And I literally a couple seasons ago, before we were going out, I know something popped up in Instagram where a bunch of dudes were out turkey hunting, and just to illustrate how ridiculous turkey hunting is, they were all hidden, got their real tree on, so they're basically invisible, and they had this gaggle of turkeys over here, and the guy, instead of like hitting a real call with a diaphragm or a box or something, he would just go and the turkeys would all right back at him, and the guys started cracking up, and he would just go back and forth and back, and every time the turkeys would call back, man, all those guys started giggling like little girls. It was the funniest shit. But yeah, turkey hunting is one of those great ones. You gotta go turkey hunting. I've heard, I don't know, you're an out west hunter, have you been elk hunting?
Yep. No, I shot a really nice mountain elk, probably about 6-7 years ago.
I hear that's like hunting big turkey.
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
To compare it to.
Nothing to compare it to.
Yeah, a lot of calling, a lot of moving, a little bit of smarts and anticipation and everything, and then obviously dumb luck.
A lot of dumb luck. Yeah, that's the story to my success is dumb luck. Dumb luck and just walking up on them. That was it. But that was a lot of fun. Moose are really, really big, so I'm used to a moose, but I didn't think elk were as big as they were. They're just massive.
And how do they rank on just the whole taste
with elk? No, they're really good. Like,
great.
Yeah, it is. I think a lot of it has to do how you cook it or prep it. But yeah, I don't think they blow like mule deer or whitetail out of the water. I think they're all pretty comparable.
Okay.
That's just my take. I think it's just preference for everybody.
All right, you guys want to shift gears to something more like fishing?
Go for it.
All right, Coleman, you're obviously an avid outdoorsman. What's your favorite type of fishing to do?
Just fishing. I really like fishing for northern pike. Now I do not like eating northern pike because there are so many bones. They're just, I don't find it enjoyable to eat. They taste good. I hate picking out all the bones. But they are a blast to fish for. You can catch them. We would just go as a kid. We'd just go throw our canoe down in the water, and we just go. One of us would paddle as hard as we could. The other one would throw it out, like kind of like trolling, and we'd go and we just take turns. You'd catch a fish every 5 minutes, throw it back in, and then just keep going. It was a blast.
Favorite lure? Did you guys ever use those Daredevil spoons with like the red and the white?
Yeah, the 5 of diamonds. Yeah, all of those. Yeah, we'd use leeches. Yeah, that's what we would use.
I got to do a bunch of fishing. Being from Michigan originally, and pike was one of those things where if you could, if you were lucky enough to have a buddy that could paddle fast enough, or possibly a little outboard motor on a pontoon to just throw into those guys out there. Those things are so damn aggressive, and I think that's what I won't say it's my favorite fish that I've ever caught, but it is definitely top 5 favorite fish. I mean, they're out there, they're plentiful, they're big, they're super aggressive, lots of bones. So yeah, you're right. Not great for eating or anything, but in terms of like sport fishing, one of the best ways to spend an afternoon for sure.
Yeah, my claim to fame back home in my town is I caught a 48-inch, so a 4-foot pike ice fishing. And I've always been small. And so I caught it when I was like 14. So the fish was almost as big as me. It was crazy. I couldn't pull it out of the hole. I had to get everybody else to help me to get it out. It was insane. 28.
That's awesome.
That's a giant pike.
Yeah.
I hope
was
you got some good
crazy.
pictures out of that one. Um, do you ever get out and do some deep water or saltwater fishing, or is that one of those things that kind of
I do, but I get seasick. So I don't enjoy it. I
Oh, that's
go and I
unfortunate.
catch a bunch and then I just remember how horrible, or I feel horrible. And then so I'm like, I'm not going to do it again. And then someone's like, hey, you want to come? And I'm like, sure. And then I forget and
yeah?
go out and do it again.
In terms of favorite eating in terms of fish, what's top of the list for you? Let's just say top three.
Top three. I really like northern perch. Just kind of grew up with that. Those were always delicious to eat. Rainbow trout again. Grew up catching that in my backyard. Those were fun. And then I really like salmon. I really enjoyed going salmon fishing and eating that. That was a lot of fun.
And then Wade's halibut that he brought to that.
Oh yeah, halibut was amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I've never done deep sea halibut fishing, so that's something I want to try.
yeah. Shout out to Wade too, man. What a fantastic piece of production that he did for Bitcoin veterans with Preston and everybody else that he interviewed that I can't wait to see. But if you're looking for it, it's on Noster. You're going to have to sign up for Noster. You're going to have to go over there. I will tell you, Wade has this really phenomenal gift for doing sit down interviews with people. And it really shines with that Preston interview. So I'd highly recommend go over there to Noster and find Bitcoin veterans. We've got it up on the channel over there.
Did they release the full video already?
I think it was released yesterday, day before.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but okay. So I just wanted to touch on fishing. I know maybe the outdoors isn't everybody's favorite. I will tell you though, I think you add on to this. I think a lot of people are missing it in their lives, and whether you're a hunter or a fisherman, that's just another excuse for outdoorsmen to go out and be outdoors. But I think there's something incredibly beneficial to the psyche, to the soul, and just your overall health doing that kind of stuff.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's fun. Go out there and get frustrated not catching fish. There's nothing like it.
It's true though. It's true though, because it's like the one thing that I couldn't help think about, like as you guys were talking about hunting and fishing, is that especially what you said, Coleman, is like you have to get used to being comfortable with failure. Like it's like a lot of the same parallels to like working out and like the philosophies that like all these like real life pursuits like do teach you. Is like if you want to do something, you want to learn, you want to get good at something, you have to get comfortable with failure. Otherwise, you're not going to go anywhere with anything. And I don't think enough, because of the digital age, enough people, maybe there's a mixture of people that don't get enough exposure to like that reality, but then like the fact that there's something different about failing in something like a video game versus something where you fail in real life, right? Because in a video game, all you really miss out on is like maybe time, right? And the energy it took to like stay awake to do it. But when you fail at something in the physical, in the meat space, whether you're trying to deadlift or you're trying to hunt for an elk, you're trying to catch that like that rainbow trout, like there's a significant more there's more time, more effort, more energy that gets like, and more use of resources that you have to get comfortable with using up and dealing with that failure, and then it just makes the victory and the success even that more impactful and enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I've monopolized the first 2/4 of the show.
I want to know
2/3. Go ahead.
I want to know, Coleman, what brought you to Bitcoin? Is it the sovereignty aspect? Because it would make sense with the hunting.
That would be an aspect of it. I think really I just started asking questions and I just kind of stumbled into it.
How'd you stumble into it? Did you just
So-
come across like a headline, or?
No, well, if I could go back in time and punch my 2013 self, I would really hit myself good. Someone had told me about it back then, and and it was definitely someone who knew what they were talking about, and I just blew them off. Like this sounds like this is nothing. You don't know what you're talking about.
Was it
but
like, so was that do you remember that conversation? Was it like for like an investment thesis, or was it like somebody talking about like a video game thing, or like what was
wasn't
it?
video game? No, they're talking. I don't know how we got in the conversation, but it came up that they're talking about. It must have been something about surveillance or
Oh,
something like
okay.
that, and they were talking about, hey, I think Bitcoin's going to be a thing,
So
and I,
Patriot Act type shit.
yeah, and so, and I remember I just didn't give them. I didn't give them the time of day for some reason, and I don't know why. I just kept pushing it off. I was like, you don't know what you're talking about in this. This is nothing. But yeah, I really wish they could go back. But I just started noticing, not immediately after that, but things seemed different. When I would go to a store, I would notice there were more and more elderly people working, especially at Walmart. There's just more people working at checkouts or the greeters, and it just slowly but surely it just seemed to seep through everywhere I went. I started to notice this, and I just started asking questions like, why are these people having to work? They're supposed to be retiring. Like, I wonder what happened where they're in this situation where they can't enjoy their retirement. And then it got to a point where like all these people can't just be bad luck. Like there's something else going on.
Yeah.
So it started steering me down this hole, and so I just started reading a lot of books. The first one was Ed the Fed. And then I found this podcast. It was called the Survival Podcast by Jack Spirko.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it.
I'm not, but it looks like Shane is.
Yeah, it's a really good podcast. I don't get time for it much, but it's well done.
Yeah, so I found him and I just dove through. So I tried to listen to everything, and he called himself a shitcoin minimalist. So he dabbled in Bitcoin and shitcoins. And so again, I didn't really know a lot about it, and I looked at the price of Bitcoin, and I was like, I can't afford this, and so I started buying what he recommended on altcoins, and just completely lost on those, and then started diving some more in and saw Bitcoin, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this. And so I bought in right at the top as it was going in 21. So October, November, everyone was like, it's going up and it's going to hit 100,000. And I was like, I don't want to miss this. So I just aped in. We had some savings, and I just put it all in there. And then it tanked. And everyone, and I remember this vividly, looking at my phone and looking at the chat I was a part of, and they're like, don't worry, the price does this. Buy more. It drops and then it just takes off. So I put more money into it, and it kept going and it kept going. And I was like, holy crap.
Down
what did
60%.
I just do? Yeah. And so I really just started reading and listening to anything I could about Bitcoin at that point, because I couldn't tell my wife, like, hey, I just invested all of this money into Bitcoin, and I think we lost it all. So I had to come up with an excuse or something and see what's going on. And then I started reading, started researching, and just kind of realized, like, hey, this isn't the end of it. This is just a cycle. So I started building more conviction, on it. And then just started listening.
Conviction. There you go.
Conventional conviction. And just started, again, building more confidence, and just kept buying. So all the way through. And we're at the point we are today.
That is one of like the most important like lessons you have to learn, though, is when you come into Bitcoin. It's like it's honestly, it's probably the path through the harshest fire, like coming in right before the fall, but
Yes.
it teaches you like the most important lesson right out the gate. It's like, this is an asset of pain and of patience, and you need to get used to it. You need to callous yourself, because if you actually want to survive and get out to the point of like where everybody's having the laurels and the parties at the other end, or at least like the generational wealth and the security that it's going to provide, like, time to build those calluses now.
Yeah. And I definitely did not have a long time horizon when I bought that. I was very short-minded. I was like, hey, you know what, this goes up, I can flip this and do this. And so it's definitely, it humbles you, and it changes it. And of course, now my perspective on it is completely changed from when it first was, but now it's an amazing tool. It helps me with my business. I make sure my business, we acquire it as much as we can. And it's just, I think that's the biggest thing, is trying to get that message out.
So one of the best pieces of advice that I like to give out to guys that are new into Bitcoin is, hey, hold this for 4 years. You know,
Yes.
if you will, if your time horizon, if you'll measure it in 4-year increments, if you'll do that, I guarantee you in 4 years you'll call me and you'll be like, "Damn, you were right, man." And I was wondering, when you're giving out advice to people, what advice do you give? What's maybe the best advice that you give to people that that maybe you learned the hard way or whatever the case is?
I actually give them that exact advice. I say, I want you to take whatever money you're never going to touch, no matter what happens, an emergency or what. And that number differs for everybody. So just for easy math, let's use $1,000. If you don't need $1,000 in the next 4 years, take half of it, buy it right now, and the other half, DCA over the next 30 to 60 days. And then just don't touch it. And then as you read more on it, as you ask me more questions, I'll give you tons of books to read. As your conviction grows, slowly start adding more. Don't put a whole bunch in until your conviction on it, you fully understand it, but just very, very slowly do it.
Yep.
And that's my advice. And it works out. It really does.
I tend to tell people, like, one of my favorite, I think, measures or whatever to get really people started is like, take how much you spend on a full tank of gas one time and just set that up for DCA once a week. Just so
Yep.
you start to get comfortable with it, you dig into it a little bit. You can watch the price if you want. I don't recommend it, but if you do, just like continue watching it, because then most people, because we know most people don't care until they see the price go up. Then they see the price double or triple in a short time frame. They're like, wait, hold on, like, you didn't tell me you would do this. It's like that's not, like, I'm not a fortune teller, man. I can't tell you when it's going to do that and when it's not.
Yeah, that's what I tell my staff. They always buy Starbucks drinks. I was like, hey, just one day a week, just don't buy Starbucks, and whatever you spend on Starbucks, just put it in your Strike account and just
Yep.
watch it.
Especially Starbucks, like those are expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if either quit coffee. I mean, if you're still drinking coffee, you're short Bitcoin. I will.
Whoa. Hold on. Black coffee is fine, not the pharmaceutical big pharma drug dispensary that is Starbucks.
No, yeah, the sugar dispensary over there. Oh yeah, the worst drug of all. Yeah, if you, I quit coffee a while back just because I was like, man, I need to find baseline.
I don't recommend that.
Oh, I'm a better person because of it. I think people are scared to do it because I don't know, they think they're gonna lack in energy or something like that. It's just not the case. I think if your diet's good and you're moving,
caffeine's my drug of choice for sure.
it's at least a mostly non-harmful one. But this ability to set the idea and expectations for what's coming in Bitcoin, and I would be curious as to both your thoughts now. The painful past couple of years of Bitcoin for people who are new to it to go down to withdraw down to 15,000 and come back up to whatever 74,000. How are you guys feeling now about where it's headed? And I'm never going to be that guy that asks for price predictions and any of that kind of stuff, but what's your general thoughts around the timing and what's about to happen?
Coleman, you go first.
Okay. I think it's about to take off. I think there's just too much going on globally, internally in the United States, and with the macro, with everything. I think it's getting ready to go, and I think it fits perfectly with this cycle. Like this cycle, Q3, everyone was saying it's supposed to start, and Q4. I just think that falls aligned with a lot of the issues that are happening for us. We have this spending issue in the United States, and again, $100 trillion, or sorry, $1 trillion every 100 days is what we're forecasting on our budget. Or it's insane. Like a trillion seconds is 32,000 years ago. Like nobody. It's just such a large number. It doesn't even make sense. It's so hard for people to comprehend that, and we're showing no signs of trying to slow down on spending. We are just spending money, sending it everywhere, trying to line the pockets of everybody. And I think it's about to hit a point where everyone just says, hey, this is enough, we're done, and people are going to start shifting, and you're going to start seeing it just take off.
Shout out to Tyler.
58K forever. Laura.
I agree largely with Coleman's kind of like viewpoint. One thing that I think that is I won't say is gonna like throw a wrench into any of that, because I believe that like the landscape we're at right now, where like presidential candidates and presidents are talking about Bitcoin in the affirmative. Like I wouldn't have thought it would happen in just 4 years. Like the fact that like we were all talking about this stuff like on Clubhouse and on Twitter Spaces 4 years ago, just kind of like proselytizing like when presidents were going to care and like take it seriously, a lot faster than what I was expecting. But I think that the chaos of like the macro situation, like particularly with like the US dollar and like BRICS nations and what's going on with Russia and China and like the continent of Asia and like all this other trade stuff, and then mixing that with the fact that we have I would bet maybe 200 million people on the planet actually have like not even a basic inkling of what Bitcoin is. That leaves 7.9 billion people that still have yet to like get it. I think that what happens, whether it's the next year or the next 5 or the next 10, I think that like Bitcoin is on a trajectory upwards, but I think that there's even more chaos ahead for Bitcoin as an asset and as a economic vehicle. I think there's more chaos ahead for it than ever before, and I don't know if really people are thinking about that. What that really means is that there's going to be a lot of volatility. Like there's already a lot of volatility. Like that's like the main like friction point for most people is the volatility, because they don't understand markets. But then I think that is going to yield a lot of serious opportunities for all of us. And that's one of the reasons why myself and then my buddy Vikingo on Twitter, like we're one of the only like ones that seems like on Bitcoin Twitter, there's just like, hey guys, keep some dry powder. Like we don't know what kind of chaos is coming. Like there's going to be opportunities to like get some on the cheap. And if we really think it's going to be as revolutionary as it is, which I think it is, especially ushering in the second Renaissance, like you don't want to have to miss out on those kinds of opportunities. That's what I think is coming. I think we're on the trajectory up, but I think it's going to be a lot bumpier than it's going to be a lot bumpier. And to Tyler's point, it's going to take a lot longer than a lot of us would really want to accept. But at the same, this is the crazy part about Bitcoin, right? But at the same time, shit's going to happen a lot faster than we think all at once. Like this is why it feels like you spend like 3 months in Bitcoin has been like, it feels like it's been 3 years.
I get what you're saying with that, Mike. But I feel like that volatility in the country is going to only push people to Bitcoin faster. And I would use the Telegram thing as an example. Like people are starting to realize, hey, you know what? Holy crap, I need to think of something else. Like it'd be very interesting to see the Nostr numbers of how many people joined or got back on in the last 5 days.
Yeah. Huge.
And very huge. And I think you might see something similar like that with Bitcoin, where the country's in chaos, they shut down bank accounts, everything's done. People are just going to be forced to it. You're going to just see it. The price might dip, but I think it might just be really, really short.
That would be really cool if we could see that as a metric. Like if you chart the number of users or something like that, number of wallets, transaction activity, whatever. I don't know how you would do it, but if you could see like the activity measurements on Bitcoin against like a price chart, like if you could see like, it's like, oh yeah, price is cascading down, but like this many wallets were made while that price was cascading down because this was happening on this part of the world. It's like that'd be pretty cool if you could see it. I don't know if you can.
I'm sure there's someone out there that can do that.
Wicked, looking at you.
Yeah, we know who those guys are in this group. If anybody can make that happen with geopolitical events, that would be fascinating to watch. And you know, with the currencies all around the world going to zero against Bitcoin, some faster than others, the adoption in other parts of the world, I believe, obviously going to happen much faster than here in the United States, where there's a lot of people who are still very comfortable. And like, boy, you want to talk about, something that is really the Achilles heel is there are so many people who are so much better off and wealthier here in the United States that think that that cash or any kind of, cash derivative of the dollar is a buffer for them, is some sort of insulation. And they're literally that insulation is a tinderbox. It is. I mean, it could literally evaporate overnight. And boy, you want to talk about, changing times fast. I think, probably a little more like Coleman. Most of my dry powder is spent already, I think. And within the anticipation that I just like, man, when these last little bits of, the liquidity from the United States government that they're selling out is gone. I mean, even Van Eck coming out saying, hey, the supply is about toast. So, get ready because things are going to get interesting. It's not that it's not going to be volatile. It's just going to be volatile at a higher number. And I think this is what's going to be very impactful for people is when you hit 6 or 7 figure Bitcoin, which I'm not saying is out of the realm of possibility as things continue to, spiral faster and faster. But those swings, now, let's just say, you go to 7 figure Bitcoin and then you see a 50% withdrawal, you're at $1 million and then all of a sudden you're at 500,000. That's going to make some people lose their lunch, man.
Do you think that happens though? That is when I picture at $1 million Bitcoin, how many people have adopted it? I just don't know, because at that point, everyone's going to be looking for it. I just think, I don't know if we get those drastic swings like that.
Max Payne, and that's the thing is where you've got these idiots out there that are new to Bitcoin that think they can still trade it back and forth like it's, some other commodity or something like that. Okay, it'll crush them, one good time before they do it. But the thing is you were talking about it earlier, Mike, is there's 7.9 billion people out there that have no experience with this whatsoever. Yep. And if they think that it's legacy finance and that it has the properties and attributes of legacy finance and the way you make money on it is like legacy finance, well, you're absolutely going to get the rudest awakening, and you're going to get the points at which you're going to get destroyed are going to be so much harder than they are now at 5-figure Bitcoin.
Yeah, because that's the hard part too. We're talking about like market dynamics that like we have nothing to compare it to.
Yeah,
like we don't know, like because there's a likelihood that like both of you guys could be right. There's a likelihood where majority of the price action isn't like there aren't massive swings, but then there will be a time or an event where it kicks off a liquidation cascade because of the derivatives markets and everything like that, and maybe even not because of the derivatives markets. It's just an event, and then people panic, and then it sells really, really hard versus anything else because there's no circuit breakers to stop the trading.
Yeah. 4 years, people. Just hold on to it 4 years and you'll be better off, and then you won't care. Let's pay some more sponsors. A big shout out to our friends over at Punchplate. Codl.co, that's CODL.co. Punch plates are a durable medium for your Bitcoin and can store 12 words or 24-word Bitcoin backups. Storing your Bitcoin in metal ensures your keys will survive in the elements, accidental spills, and in some cases even fire. You don't have to worry about smeared ink or ripped paper and can sleep soundly knowing your Bitcoin are inscribed on a punch plate. These are the best prices you're going to find in this industry. $24 for a 24-word punch plate. It's simple. It's a punch and a plate. No little letters, no stamps with letters on them, just a punch and a plate. Go check them out at coddle.co. That's punch plate at coddle.co. Solo Satoshi is dedicated to the advancement of open source Bitcoin mining with a steadfast commitment to the security and decentralization of the Bitcoin network. As a pioneering force in the Bitcoin space, their mission is to empower individuals and businesses worldwide with innovative, secure, and decentralized mining solutions. At Solo Satoshi, they believe in the transformative power of open source software and the potential it holds for the future of Bitcoin mining. They strive to foster a community of developers and enthusiasts who share our vision of a more secure and decentralized Bitcoin landscape. Our dedication to open source principles is at the heart of their mission, driving their commitment to transparency, collaboration, and innovation. They are passionate about supporting the growth and the development of the Bitcoin network, and they recognize the critical role that open source software and developers play in achieving this goal. By promoting and contributing to open source ecosystems, they aim to facilitate a more robust and resilient Bitcoin network, ensuring its longevity and success for years to come. At Solo Satoshi, their mission is not only to provide cutting-edge mining solutions, but also to educate and inspire others about the importance of decentralization and open source principles in the Bitcoin space. They believe that by working together, we can create a future where Bitcoin mining is more accessible, efficient, and aligned with the core values of decentralization and open collaboration. All right. Thank you, Solo Satoshi and the Punch Plate guys. Excellent products, by the way. If you don't have them, get out there, maybe get a couple. You've got a great chance of actually solving a block and earning, a little over 3 Bitcoin right now, if you're doing it by yourself. And I think in the future, Bitcoin Veterans is going to be looking at a Bitcoin veteran mining pool. So
we would like to. We were flirting with the idea. That's for damn sure.
We'll see. We'll see. A lot of things get spoken into existence around here. But one of those things that does really cheer everybody up is their favorite time.
Who said that? Who the fuck said that? What have we got here? A fucking comedian, private joker.
All right, Coleman. You know the deal. I hope you brought some funny shit.
And I was trying to look through. I don't have any, so I never saw any combat. So I don't have any stories like that are just crazy. I think, Shane, you can relate to this. In the Marine Corps, there's a saying, this was the stupidest thing I've done until you did the next thing. And so I remember that used to be the saying up until about, I was halfway through my career with the Marine Corps, and we were in Japan. We were on a Mew, and so we've been on ship for, I think it was 40, 45 days. And if any of you if any guys that are in the Navy, I don't know how you stay on the ships. I hated it. It was horrible. The food sucked. We would go forever without resupply. But we were going to be hard chargers. I was in a weapons battalion. And so we were going to be hard chargers, and we were going to storm the beach that we were landing on. And so everyone was going to be there, and it was going to be cool. We're going to be a show of force. So we wake up super early, 3:00 in the morning, to get ready for launch at 6:00. And so we're sitting down there in our Humvees in the bottom of the ship, waiting to go. 6:00 comes, nothing. 7:00 comes, nothing. 8:00 comes, and they finally drop the back of it down. They're like, okay, this is going to be awesome. We're going to beat the ships there, and we're going to look like total badasses. And so we pull out on the hovers, and we pull out and we turn around, and there's the fucking dock. And they have all the Navy guys and everything already loading, unloading. And so we roll right in, right next to the forklifts, and everybody already waiting with their sea bags and everything there. And that was the only day in the Marine Corps where we could say that there was no point in our career where we could say this was the stupidest thing until it was the dumbest thing ever. It's 6 hours underneath there just to go around the dock and up the ramp. It was dumb.
Oh man, I'll tell you, I remember those days of playing with the Navy, man. And if you think the Marine Corps does things in a slow and roundabout way, wait till you're past Intercross with the greatest taxi service in the world. Oh, they are hard to deal with, man. The birthing, the hours, the procedures, and everything else is just insanity.
Yeah, so I brought that one, and then I actually brought the story with me. This one's a little funnier with the picture. So that picture that you have of me is when I was up in Alaska doing a caribou hunt. I know we talked about it really briefly. So this was a last minute scheduled caribou hunt that my cousin and I did. Um, and so we went up to Fairbanks, and then we rented out a little condo where we are going to kind of base out of, rented a vehicle, and then we said we're going to drive up past Fairbanks up to Circle, Alaska. It's out in the middle of nowhere, almost near, like you can practically say it was the Arctic. And so we're going to go hunt the 40-mile caribou herd. It's where the caribou are just thousands upon thousands of caribous. They just kind of migrate through. And we had permits for it. So we were going up there, and we wanted to be hard chargers. He was a Marine, I was a Marine. And so we wanted to go climb these mountains, go in the backcountry, and look for these caribou. And so we bought lunch. We had lunch in our bags, and we start hiking. And we're hiking in the middle of nowhere. So the snow is coming up to our waist. It is minus 34, minus 35. And we start sweating. So we take off all of our gear. So we're just down to just our long underwear. And then the second we stop, we have to put on all of our gear back on because you start freezing up. And so we're hiking up this mountain. And so we went in November. And so about this point in Alaska, or this time in Alaska, there's only about 5 hours of light. And then after that, you're done. So we had to go up this mountain in about 2 hours, try and harvest a caribou, try and gut it and clean it, and then bring it down the mountainside so we can be back at our vehicle with like an hour remaining. And so we're hiking, and it is just horrible. And my cousin's a little bit overweight. He didn't condition himself as he should have. So we weren't meeting that 2 hour time target. He was really slagging. So I went up ahead, and I found a beautiful herd of caribou. It was just massive, or just the bulls in here were just massive. And so I come back down and tell him, hey, we got 2 giant bulls up here. They're laying down. It's about 500 extra yards at the top of this hill. All we have to do is just climb up here, and we'll be good to go. And he's like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And he's like, we only have like 30 minutes, and we're going to start having to worry about if we're going to camp on this mountainside with no gear, or we're going to take this bull. So I'm like, I'm going to run up this mountainside. I can run up the side. They won't see me, and I can go ahead and I can get to this bull. And he's like, you can't do it. I was like, no, I'll show you. I can do it.
Bet.
Run up there, and just completely winded. It definitely didn't even make it. But I was like, I'm not stopping. I'm going to go up here anyways. And if the bull looks amazing, I'll make that decision when I get up there. And like 300 yards away from this bull, he is just a massive bull laying down, no cares in the world, because nobody in civilization has ever walked this mountainside before. And so I made one of the hardest decisions I've had to make in my life on not taking that bull, just because it would have been complete chaos trying to get him down in the dark in the middle of Alaska, like 2 hours away from Fairbanks. So I start walking down the mountainside, just defeated, and I catch up with my cousin, and he's sitting there and he's just sucking on his sandwich. And I'm like, what are you doing? And because it was so cold out there, his sandwich froze, but because he was so hungry, he's just gumming this damn sandwich on the side of this mountain. Never
That's so gross.
Just a roast beef sandwich. He's just gumming it because he can't chew it. It's frozen solid. He's just sitting there.
Oh.
And so that was the story. That was where this picture was taken.
You're intentionally making your bread soggy. Like it's just.
It's the only way you could chew into it. He just frozen solid.
He's lucky his lips didn't freeze to it and have to go back to civilization with a sandwich stuck to his mouth.
Yeah, it was a sight to see as I came down, but it was fun. We actually ended up getting a caribou the next day, but it was a fun hunting trip.
That's awesome, man. Hunting and military stories, I got to tell you, some of the best stories out there. If you're not doing either one of those, boy, I don't know what you guys find funny out there, but that's some really good stuff.
It cracks me up, though. I will say it cracks me up how like the hard charging nature of like military vets tends to stick with them, even like regardless of how old you get or anything. And it's just like, okay, This is nature checking me. It's like I thought I still had it. I don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful piece of hunting, especially as you're getting older, is you start to realize like this is a fleeting skill set and in physicality, and yeah, it's make as much of it as you can now for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
It's 8:20. Let's start putting a bow on this thing. Coleman, anything that you want to drop here before we cut out of here?
I just want to thank you guys for having me up here again. It's so surreal to be a part of this, sitting on the sidelines watching you all and having with so much envy, and then just getting an opportunity to come in here and play this role that I'm starting to play now. It's amazing. So I want to thank you guys for that.
Absolutely.
No, thank you for coming on, and then also thank you for your assistance out in Nashville. That was definitely very appreciated.
This is my pleasure.
Yeah, for all of you guys don't know, Coleman came out to Nashville, brought some guns and some equipment and his dog and just a great attitude, and was all over the place helping us, especially with the range. Not to mention everything at the bunker down there. I think we misnamed that the Citadel. It should have been the bunker, but at any rate, yeah, Coleman. I think we're just absolutely tickled to have guys of your caliber stepping up and taking on a whole new mission that we hadn't planned on or anything else, and it's just, hey, somebody speaks it and you're ready to go.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you,
Mike. Any closing thoughts?
Only that if you guys do the turkey hunt, I might have to join you guys. Like, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
Because I've had individuals reach out to me that were like wanted me to go along with them for hunting, but it's just like it was never like a good time. So I know two guys that I would definitely enjoy going hunting with. I might have to get involved in that, especially if like the future is as bright as we hope for, especially for the Bitcoin veterans groups, like getting some sort of team house to where we can go either on hunting trips and or like deep sea fishing or something. Well, okay, maybe not deep sea fishing. We don't want Coleman getting sick, but we could do the river fishing and stuff like that. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we'll wrap this up. Coleman, there's so much more we could talk about, man. And I'm glad you got spaces because I want to pick your brain about some stuff. I've been training dogs my entire life, not to the degree you have, and so I have some questions. If you guys don't know, Coleman's also just a brilliant dog trainer, and that's one thing we didn't get into that I wish we could have gotten into tonight. We just didn't have enough time talking too much hunting and fishing and Bitcoin. But for everybody that's out there, thank you for everything you're doing. This group of people is just changing the world. It's changing their localities. It's changing the United States, and it's literally changing the world. And a lot of the eyes are on the U.S. right now for what's about to happen with the presidential election, where you have two guys that have combined forces with some that were not probable and are talking about making Bitcoin the future here in the United States. And I think that's got to do with every one of you, for lack of a better term, psychopaths out there that will ride this thing down and up and down and up and whatever else way it's going to go sideways. The bull crab, if you're Jeff Ross there. And but at any rate, we really appreciate everything you guys do. Appreciate everybody who's watching out there. If you want to get involved, you can go to bitcoinveterans.org. And we will throw you into the chats, and you can do whatever you like and get involved in whatever you want. Other than that, we will be back here next Tuesday at 6:45 and go live at 7 o'clock. Until then, we will see you later. Peace.
Thank you.